Welcome to Our National Conversation, a podcast in which we discuss politics from all angles. We are completely nonpartisan, and all views respectfully stated are welcomed here. Our podcast is unique in that it is hosted and run by students who are focused on finding solutions to the biggest problems facing America.
Welcome to our National Conversations introductory episode, where we're going to talk about who we are, where we started, and what we hope to accomplish as an organization, among many other things. My name is Matthew Reyna, and I am your host for this podcast. I'm joined today by three great individuals. First and foremost is our founder and CEO, Jeff Hall. Jeff, please give our audience a little bit of background information about yourself.
Thank you for having me today, Matthew. My name is Jeff Hall. I'm a newspaper dinosaur going way back. I'm not a student intern like the other three individuals in this room. I graduated from college back in 1974. I went to Stanford. I later went to Harvard Business School. I've always liked the intersection of journalism and business and entrepreneurship and public policy. My first job was as a reporter for the Kansas City Star. Years later, I worked for the White House for a year. I then went to the LA Times. I was a VP there. And then in recent years, I started some community newspapers in West Los Angeles, where I live. Print is in big decline, as everybody knows, and I've been shifting over to digital in recent years. We built a news aggregator called thelatest.com, and that led us directly to our nationalconversation.org, because one of the things people liked about thelatest.com is that we are nonpartisan and show all sides. So that's going to be a big piece of the philosophy behind ONC.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeff. The next person that we have with us today is Sam Taylor, who currently serves as our policy shop chief with ONC. Sam, please give us a little bit of background information about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Matthew. So as Matthew said, I am the current policy shop chief at ONC, meaning that I oversee the production and editing of all the written content ONC produces, including policy proposals, op-eds, books, and so forth. Additionally, I am a staff editor for the undergraduate journal of philosophy that corresponds to the university I'm currently a student at, which would be Brigham Young University, where I study political science, philosophy, and business. So there you are.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. And last but not least, we have Tanya Ruiz Ortiz, who also serves as a leader in a leadership position here with ONC. Tanya, please give us a little bit of background information about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. I am a graduate from the University of Laverne with degrees in political science and speech communication. I am an infrastructure lead here at Our National Conversation, and my motto is, when you know better, you do better. Thank you.
Well, we love that motto here, and I think that'll serve us all well, knowing that as well. And just to give a little bit of background information for myself, again, my name is Matthew Reyna. I started here with ONC roughly 6 to 8 months or 6-7 months ago. It's been quite a while. It's gone by quickly. I first started here as a intern with the Foreign Policy and Defense team, rose to lead that team eventually, and now I'm here serving ONC as the director of media, of which that encompasses social media, podcast, and our video production teams. So let's go ahead here and get started. So the first question that we want to talk about here is, what is our national conversation? Who is our national conversation, and what do we hope to achieve here? And I think that the first person who would be able to speak most to this is our current founder and CEO, Jeff Hall, if you will, please.
Okay, so ONC is a multimedia platform that is completely nonpartisan. We happily show all sides. We enjoy a good debate. So we have a website. This is where it all starts. It's ournationalconversation.org. And when you get there, you'll see that we have 4 major buttons across the top. One is news, one is opinions, one is proposals, and one is called Get Involved. On the news side, we use our news aggregator technology that we developed for thelatest.com, and we show political news stories from all sides. So you can see the same story and how it's being played in real time by Huffington Post, Fox News, New York Times, BBC, Al Jazeera, the whole gamut. You can just click right through and see how the different media players are portraying the same story in real time. The next part of our site is our opinion section. We employ the same philosophy. We like to have a good mix of liberals, moderates, and conservatives. We enjoy a healthy debate. We want to really flesh out the issues and educate people in the process. The third leg of our stool here is that we have this proposals section where smart people like our student interns can make actual proposals for how to make U.S. government and society work better. It could be how to streamline healthcare insurance, how to save Social Security, how to do a better job of social justice, what to do about balancing the budget, how to provide for a strong defense. It could be anything, really. And these students have been working on this for almost 2 years now, and I think we've produced over 100 proposals, and soon we'll be publishing a book called Let's Fix America, and we have 34 of those proposals in our first book. We simply could not fit them all. Sam will talk about that in a little while, I hope. The fourth and final part of the site is called Get Involved. It's like a bulletin board where people who are looking for interns, or if they have an opportunity or a job or a graduate program that they want people to apply to, they can post their listings there, and then students and other Americans can look at this bulletin board and find opportunities that might fit the bill. So before I step off here, I want to point out that we are very youth focused. We have an army of student interns who have been working on this thing for about 2 years. Every semester we have a lot of people come and a lot of people go, but we've literally had over 400 interns since 2020 when we started this thing. And we started right in the middle of COVID, and it made it easy actually for me to find interns because the interns who were applying had lost all of their other internships, their summer jobs, their summer school classes. And suddenly we were overwhelmed with applications, and this thing just took on a life of its own. But we also have a bunch of adults here. I'm a baby boomer. I'm 70 years old. A lot of friends my age, maybe a little younger, some even older, if you can believe that, have been working with our students to help them understand public policy, or how to run a media company, or how to raise money. There are a lot of different aspects that go into a startup, and we have some great supporters and advisors who have been working with our students. And I'm happy to say the exchange has been marvelously wonderful. The older people like working with the students, and the students enjoy the insights they gain from working with the older folks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm part of the organization, but I have to say as well, that's something that when I first came into it as well, it was astonishing seeing the level of intergenerational interactions at play here with ONC. It's really serving as this sort of network hub of, experts, practitioners in certain fields, and then of course students. The experts or practitioners are helping to inform the younger generation, so that with their new ideas, with their new methods of achieving solutions to these to today's problems, it's really serving as something good as well. So that's great to hear. Thank you, Jeff. And of course, just like Jeff mentioned, that ONC has a book in the stages of being released currently called Let's Fix America. And I know, Sam, I understand that you've had quite a bit or you've done quite a bit to help out with that book. Is that true? Talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so the book project, Let's Fix America, was this idea of taking a bunch of the policy proposals that our students have written and compiling them to, in these 8 different sections corresponding to different policy areas, from governance to healthcare to infrastructure to social issues and so forth, and attempting to solve a lot of the major issues facing America. Now, of course, the book itself is really only a conversation starter. We didn't aim to provide the end-all solutions that's, there's no room for improvement, this is it. But it was an honest attempt to take a lot of these issues that are currently plaguing the country and try to deliver nonpartisan policy proposals to address these sorts of issues, and further to do so in a way that would hopefully, based on the projections of our student economist team, actually lead to a decrease in the national deficit. And I've overseen, a fair bit of the revision process for this book. A lot of the policy proposals, in fact, most of them were written before my time here at ONC, but they've gone through a lot of reworks, a lot of expert feedback, biased reviews, etc., just to make sure they aren't conforming to, say, a liberal perspective entirely or a conservative one entirely, that they're a nice nonpartisan blend, and that's based on polling data. Each policy proposal, we'd hope, would appeal to at least 60% of Americans. That was kind of the threshold we set for ourselves. And I think that's, though Let's Fix America certainly won't be the end of the conversation, it's a very good start.
Good, thank you, Sam. And I totally agree. So I think what, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what our listeners can take from what you said is, ONC is trying to approach this with a do more with less type of effort, but one that is done in a way that at the very least starts the conversation, from a nonpartisan perspective, and a perspective that comes from the next generation's real world, wants and desires, and seeing what, I guess you can say, what the world should be and how things should work, especially in a nonpartisan fashion. If did I get that right? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, what you and Jeff have been hitting on here is very, very critical, the sort of intergenerational aspect. Because one of the early problems we ran into with LFA was, the proposals were too academic, or, they read like student papers being submitted to professors. And what the expert feedback allowed us to do was to take kind of a more real world perspective, talk to people who have actually tried to implement similar proposals, who have, had real world experience with the industries and policy issues on which we're writing, and who can offer that sort of grounded experiential feedback. And also offer feedback on how the book itself is presented, because if you're writing for your professor, that's not something that's, say, the everyday American or a general audience is really going to be all that interested in. So it was reining in kind of the academic side of things and making sure these proposals can be understood by a general audience, and further that they're applicable to the real world.
Right. The way I envision that is simply, we're writing as if we're not writing for our professors, or we're not writing for government officials or anything like that. We're writing and we're working for, I guess you could say, the quote unquote the average American, right, who is trying to find solutions to these things. Tanya, I know that you had something to add to that. Please do so.
Yeah, we're all hitting the target, but I always like to say here at ONC, we are storytellers, right? We want to showcase the perspectives of the American people, because traditional media only looks at the popular perspectives, which is not encompassing of what all Americans think, right? So when we are those people who are storytelling the perspectives that are on the biggest issues facing America, we're more encompassing. We're encouraging people to discuss politics or anything in regards to like how their life is affected while living in the United States. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, and that is what makes us unique at ONC.
If I could jump in on that, Tanya, I come from a journalistic background, so I completely identify with what you just said. We tell stories and we try to write things in simple ways that people will understand them. And at ONC, a lot of the topics that we have chosen to tackle are pretty darn complicated, and it's easy to put people to sleep when you're talking about public policy. So we try to make it interesting and accessible, but we love telling stories about real people who are doing real things. We did a TV show pilot actually on the topic of food waste reduction in America. And we met these students from San Diego State who had invented a mobile app that did a marvelous job of connecting restaurants with late night students who were up late, working on their term papers or getting ready for the exams the next day or whatever. But at the end of the night, when these restaurants were getting ready to close down, they would send out a push notification via text to all the students' cell phones, and it would say, okay, we have 4 slices of pizza left, or we have 3 desserts, or we have 4 entrees. And the students could then immediately respond on their app by saying, yes, I want to get 2 slices of pizza and a salad or whatever. And then their credit card would automatically get charged. And then all the students had to do was run over to the store, pick up their their goodie bag from the store and they could go home and eat. And it was great food, but it was only for half the price of normal. So it was a good way to eliminate food waste and to service this late night market. I thought it was very interesting. So if anybody out there is listening and you're working on something cool that you think your fellow Americans ought to know about, we'd love to know about it so that we can be the people to help get the story out.
Yeah, that's an incredible idea, quite honestly, and something that I feel is that tackles quite a few different, problems in America from different vectors, whether it's community building, whether it's like, hey, students in America are going hungry, going to college. Like that's not a good thing. So that's good. We'll have to look into that app later. Sam, I know that you had something to add to that as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of clarify in light of some of the points that Jeff and Tanya have been bringing up, because from an outside perspective, it may seem like we're trying to juggle two incompatible goals. That we're trying to be nonpartisan and, like, say in LFA, present policy proposals that 60% of Americans or whatever else will agree with, but simultaneously we're trying to show all sides and making sure that we're differentiated from the traditional media structure that just presents whatever the popular partisan opinion is for the user base. And I think that at ONC we have a lot of different projects that we're trying to implement, trying to create, that are going really very well, but they fulfill those different roles. LFA, we're about trying to find the medium or the balance between these polarized perspectives to offer these policy proposals that will hopefully appeal to about 60% of Americans. But on the website, on the op-eds we publish, the infographics, the explainer videos, etc., these are all things where there's an immense opportunity to show perspectives that wouldn't, say, be shown in a traditional media outlet. Not, extreme radical, demonizing perspectives per se. That's a bit of a different story, but perspectives that don't really conform to the stereotypical molds of traditional conservative and traditional liberal views that we see so often in media today.
Right. Because that is such a big issue. And yeah, I mean, even in my own writings here, like I've often thought to myself, a better way to put it is, it's a balancing act, right? It's compromise. The word compromise, as in like compromise with your fellow person, with your fellow human being, has been demonized, and policy writing is essentially a compromise, right? So that's partly what we do here as well. And I've personally found myself writing a proposal and going, this is going to upset this particular camp in the the left or the Democratic side, and this part of the proposal is going to upset this side of the right side of the camp. Like somebody's not going to be happy here. But oftentimes, if you can serve the most people and bring about the most benefit for the most amount of people, and further American prosperity or community prosperity, citywide, local, whatever it may be, that's the goal. Jeff, you also had something to add, please.
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy all the time.
Right.
We found this just recently. We sent out some drafts of the manuscript to some older professionals who have been advising us along the way, people with real world policy experience. One guy in particular was very conservative. He read the book and he thought the proposals were way too liberal. Another guy was very liberal and he found the book to be very conservative. Now, I am a moderate. I genuinely like hearing all sides, and I vote for the person, not the party. But I read the book and I thought, this thing is too damn moderate. It's very reasonable. There's no real fireworks here. And I said to Sam when the proposals were first coming out, hey, where's the moonshot? There isn't anything that exciting here. It's very incremental and cautious and pragmatic, these proposals. And the students talked to me at the time and they said, we don't want to do the moonshot. We don't want to do the Green New Deal. And we don't want to get rid of the Electoral College. And we don't want to build any walls. And we don't want to overturn Roe v. Wade. So they wanted to go right down the middle. And I think they did a really good job of that. And when I think about it, practically speaking, they're probably right on the money, because the proposals that they have put forward, I can see a good mix of Democrats and Republicans and independents saying, okay, this is reasonable. we're not rocking the boat too much. We can move forward on this, and we'll set aside the thornier issues till a later time. So I think they've done a really good job with pragmatism here. I come from the baby boomer generation. We were out of control dreamers in our time. We talked a good game. We did not do a very good job of leaving the world in a better place than how we found it. So I see part of our story as being passing of the baton. The older folks are working with the younger folks to help prepare them to tackle the challenges ahead.
Right. Thank you, Jeff. And of course, I think many younger people would appreciate the admission that you had just given that, but there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, everything's 2020 in hindsight, right? We all think that we see the world in 100% clearness. But not to dwell on this too long, but I just something maybe, just going off of the discussion to leave with the viewers to think about this afterwards is, should politics be that exciting? Should politics be that life or death to where, you can't compromise, or imagine if it was so well done, if the policies were just right down the middle to where you really wouldn't even know what's like, what the policies are because everything's being taken care of in the background.
I said to Sam, I said, gee, a lot of these proposals seem very vanilla, kind of bland. And we talked some more, and the students backed me down and said they didn't want to change. They were happy with what they did. But I said, okay, we need to write a second book, and we're now calling it our Moonshot Edition. Sam, why don't you tell people what the Moonshot Edition is?
Oh, absolutely. I love the idea of the Moonshot Edition, quite frankly. I think it's something that's really exciting, sort of taking that blandness and reinvigorating it, right? It's like a more narrative-focused version of Let's Fix America. And the basic idea is, imagine what America will be like in 50 years, or in that rough time span, right? So imagine what politics is going to be like, society, technology, science, etc. And based on those trajectories, those trends, as well as what we think we could accomplish by that time, how would we be able to solve the issues facing America currently in a really bold, really imaginative way? And it's sort of similar to Let's Fix America in the sense that Moonshot isn't meant to be the end-all answer to how we should address America's issues in 50 years or so. Rather, it's an attempt to, I guess, get the conversation started of what is really possible if we were to unite around some particular goals or some visions of what the future might be, and what could we accomplish with that sort of unity. In much the same way, the literal moonshots, the landing on the moon occurred as a result of, a cohesive, energized national effort over, what was really a relatively short period of time. It certainly wasn't 50 years. But what can we accomplish if we were to, apply that sort of mentality to a lot of the issues that America currently faces? We've gone through some iterations with moonshots. I took on the project myself for a time, but we've had to refine it, revise it, and I think the team who's working on it right now is doing a pretty great job kind of solidifying what the book's going to look like and what we're going to work on with respect to it going forward.
We actually have ideas for several books. We've spent a lot of time working on these policy proposals and these opinion pieces. But when we open up the website to the general public, my hope is that citizens from all walks of life will suddenly start writing opinion pieces and offer their own proposals as to how to make America better. So I'm hoping that relieves some of the pressure from the students so we can work on other books. And I'll give you an example. We've got 2 students, maybe 3 now, who are from mainland China. And we have a group of Chinese students, Chinese American students, some students from Taiwan, some everyday students from the US, and we're forming a small team, and I've tasked them with the job of coming up with proposals that could help reduce tensions between China and the US. Now, will they succeed? I don't know. We'll find out. I'm hoping that within 6 months or so, we'll be able to publish that book. But, the young people have fresh minds, and they're not paralyzed by things as they are. And I've asked them to do their best to solve this problem, because the adults, our political leaders on both sides, really aren't doing a very good job, and the tensions only rise year after year. So I'm hoping the students can actually figure out something that the adults have not been able to do.
No, but both of those projects, like what Sam, what you had mentioned with the Moonshot project, and of course the foreign relations, or the U.S. and China relations one. I'll speak more on that in a bit, but the Moonshot project is our real attempt to sort of like, hey, like, let's try to come together here, right? In the desire to accomplish a national goal, something really good. Like, what happened to that era? It doesn't feel like we're still there. It feels like we're quite honestly moving from crisis to crisis, right? Whether it's the housing crisis, whether it's the food crisis, whether it's a health crisis, whatever it may be, everything seems to be a crisis today. And the Moonshot project, in a sense, is, let's imagine if we fixed all of that. Let's set goals and work backward from there, right? Just imagine how different this country could be if we actually solved hunger, that we actually allotted the right amount of money to lower income schools, or whatever it may be, or whatever the issue is. Imagine if we had solved that and worked backward from there. How far ahead could our country be? How beautiful could that be? And I think that's what, the what if, that's what Moonshot really is. And of course, the US and China relations is also something that's, I feel, is just not given so much attention in our media stream today. It seems as though that there are a lot of forces out there, natural forces, whether it's power, whether it's economics, whatever it may be, that just seem to be promoting this narrative of conflict. And what we hope to do is to say, hey, let's pause and let's see, like, what's the issue here? Let's see how we can fix things. Let's see how we can talk. Let's just get the conversation started from a point of respect rather than animosity and competition.
We have identified a flaw in our approach, and I just want to let people know that we are aware of it and that we're working on it. And that is, our students and most of our advisors, this is definitely a college crowd. Either they're in college, they've graduated from college, they're in high school, and they're headed towards college. But if you look at the statistics, only 34% of the American people have a 4-year degree after age 25. So a lot of people don't go to college, or they start and then don't finish. There's nothing wrong with these people, and we're not trying to say that we're smarter than they are or anything like that. Quite the opposite. We're working to try to figure out how to get non-college attendees to become part of ONC. And I'm here in LA. We have a huge homelessness crisis. I know some people who are in the field of developing public housing for homeless people. It's very expensive. People are looking into tiny homes and other ways of reducing the cost. Anyway, I know some of these people, and I'm talking to them about doing some sort of a pilot project next summer, in the summer of 2023, where maybe we could get a team of 10 young Americans together, some from college, some from the trades who know carpentry, electricity, plumbing, etc., and get a piece of land someplace and say, okay, by the end of the summer, we're going to build a shelter for 20 homeless individuals, or whatever it works out to be. We haven't gotten that far into the conversations yet, but everybody I've talked to really likes it. And they like the idea that we are trying to get America talking again. That's our slogan. Let's get America talking again. So, so far, the feedback that we've been getting is very positive. We are a startup. Startups are risky. There's a chance we could fail, but I'm thinking maybe this is the idea that actually goes the distance, because we're in the right place at the right time with the right idea. And with that, I'd like to turn to Tanya, because she's a better storyteller than I am. Maybe you can tell the world why they should support our national conversation.
So what really drew me to ONC was this message of wanting to break down this wall of hyper partisanship the media always tells it, right? They're feeding into the culture war setting to divide us. That is what drew me to them, because I believe that we as Americans need to be united, not divided. And in such case, when I was looking for internships, I knew my time was valuable, right? But I also knew the work I produced needed to be more than just being an assistant to an editor. It needed to be meaningful work. And ONC granted me that opportunity, right? So I wanted to build something, and ONC is granting me the ability to do that, building a better America, right? And I do this by being very practical when it comes to solutions and producing work that is clear, understandable, thematic, and encompassing again. And I really think that's what Americans need right now. They need people or like an organization that is willing to talk to them and put their perspectives into paper, because popular media isn't doing that. But yeah, so united, not divided is my motto. I think that's a very valuable tool I use, and like motivation for me. And so when I came across ONC, the values did align with my own. So, and I knew my time would be valued to a great respect. So I produce works that really bring me a sense of fulfillment, rather than just a sense of duty that, oh, I have to do it. No, I want to do this. And I think that's what makes us great as an organization, because these interns, our leaders, are not just doing it to do it. They're doing it because they care, right? And I think that's a really wonderful thing.
Right. I agree with that. And if I could speak to my own experience as well here, because I did start out just as an intern on the foreign policy and defense team. And I feel and echo a lot of the same motivations that you have, Tanya, in the sense that, there's a lot of issues that are cropping up here that are coming to a head, quite honestly. And I'm at the tail end of a millennial. I'm working full time. I live in the Bay Area. I make decent money. But yet the housing crisis is really hitting me hard, in the sense of like, okay, hey, my next job is, or my next life, event is supposed to be buying a house. And right now it's, buying even a starter home, if they even exist anymore, quite honestly, you're going to probably pay 700K a year. That's unsustainable. And, so I joined here to help contribute to resolving some of these solutions in any way I can. Not only is it to gain experience, but it's also to really, do my own research in the way that I wanted to do it outside of university, right? We're not just writing here for our professors, or for a panel of professors for like maybe a thesis, or or dissertation, whatever it may be. We're writing and showing Americans what we have learned in university, and a little bit of what we have gathered from our still quite limited experiences, but we are young adults. And I think there's some strong value to that. So yeah, ONC, it's a great organization if you want to contribute to finding solutions and network with like-minded people. And of course there's leadership opportunities that are in abundance, quite honestly.
Training future leaders is a big part of our concept. I think it is fair to say that the baby boomers feel a little guilty about what we did during our tenure, or what we failed to do. We knew the issues. I think we made some progress, but not enough. And conditions have only gotten worse. Climate change, for example, we knew about that 50 years ago. I remember hearing about this in a geology class about, wood fires and coal fires and oil burning, how it all contributed to throwing carbon up into the air. And that every year, the scientists could go back like 100 years and say, each year the temperature of the atmosphere was going up by a fraction of a degree. And then they said at some point it will start accelerating. And we need to do something about it soon. Otherwise, there'll be trouble. Sure enough, here we are. There's trouble. So I feel sorry a little bit for the next generation, Gen Z. On the other hand, if you guys can figure this out and come to terms with this and grapple with all of these issues and just unify as a generation, you could be maybe the strongest generation ever, because, survival is at stake now. There's just so much going on. I just don't want you guys to be intimidated, or to give up hope, or to think it can't be done. It can be done. There's a lot that can be done. And we did plenty, but we didn't do enough. You guys need to do better. And so my friends and I want to empower you and give you the tools that you need to do a better job. You might look at us and say, why do we want to listen to you? You guys flubbed this so badly. I think that's why you should listen to us, because maybe we did flub it badly, and now in the time remaining, we want to fix it if we can.
Definitely, and that really speaks to the goal of ONC is really to just like I had mentioned earlier, we're bridging that generational gap here so that we can all work together to solve some of these these quite honestly existential crisis, whether it's on a local level, a national level, or even on a world level. You don't even have to call it climate change. Just say that the climate is changing. I think we all understand that by now. So yeah, and I think this would serve as a great segue for our audience. One of the last things that we want to talk about here is, what do we think, or what do you think? All of my guests, please think about this. What do you think ONC can offer to those who are less politically engaged but looking to join the conversation? Jeff, since you are CEO, please go first.
Actually, I just read an article the other day in the LA Times, and it was talking about Gen Z and their voter patterns, which are just getting established now. And Gen Z is very aware of the issues, and a lot of people want to vote, and a lot of young people actually have come out and voted in recent elections. And some people think it's making a big difference, largely helping the Democrats, but that's neither here nor there. But it was also saying that a lot of these young voters are intimidated by the awesome responsibility that is attached to voting. They don't want to get it wrong, and they want to understand the issues before voting. And a lot of people feel like they don't understand the issues. And it's hard to get the straight scoop out there. If you follow popular media, if you watch Fox News one night, you're going to get one side of the story. If you watch MSNBC the next night, you're going to get a very different point of view. So I think what we're doing with our books and our explainers and our website and everything that we do at ONC, it's a good place to come to just learn basic politics 101, because we try to keep it simple. We show all sides. We're here to help people get up to speed, and then they can make up their own minds.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. And I think Sam, you had something to add to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that ONC can offer is this idea of just being exposed to other points of view, and being exposed to other points of view in a very robust way, but also a civil manner. In the political climate we live in today, people tend to content themselves with hearing the same rehearsed, sort of canned views from political commentators, YouTube videos, Reddit boards, whatever else. You hear about people's these sort of like stereotypical conservative or stereotypical liberal views, and you just rehearse those over and over again in a way that's rather psychologically pleasing, right? Because people like to confirm their pre-existing beliefs. But if you have a chance to really, on a consistent basis, engage in substantive civil debate, I think that would do wonders to improve the polarizing situation which America is currently experiencing, and to really get people thinking about these issues as opposed to just accepting these pre-made opinions that are popularized in traditional media. So I think that's just the opportunity to really engage in civil debates is one of the best things that ONC offers. And it's something that isn't really offered to that great an extent in other media outlets. It's much more screaming matches and echo chambers, as opposed to sitting down and actually discussing these issues in a way that will lead to real world resolutions. And hopefully that's exactly what ONC can accommodate. That's the void it can fill.
We've proven it can be done. We have conversations all the time that include liberals, moderates, conservatives. We have people from the South, the Midwest, the East Coast, the West Coast. We have old, we have young. We have all ethnicities. We're a very diverse group, but we always get along. I mean, I've never seen any of our conversations become argumentative. I think people genuinely respect the culture that we're trying to establish here, and they fall into line happily. They're glad to be part of this, because they can't have this kind of conversation anywhere else, especially not back on campus. Young people tell me all the time about political correctness and cancel culture and all that. If you say one thing wrong, boom, you're zapped. We don't have that at ONC. Everybody gets to speak their piece, and the rest of us listen with respect.
Thank you, Jeff. Tanya, please finish off.
Yes. So to our listeners who want to become advocates, who want to become more politically evolved, or just want to know more when it comes about what affects their lives here in the United States, ONC is the place to begin or to start your journey, because we are that middle ground to everything, right? We are here to guide you through the political process and be encompassing as much as we can be, right? We want to give you the tools to succeed in terms of political advocacy or just advocating for yourself, right? We want you to be able to have discussions that are choosing to think forwardly, right? So choosing to improve rather than choosing to argue. And we are that place that does all of that. And if your goal is to break down this wall of hyperpartisanship, as in stop feeding into media that's telling you lies or myths, we are that place, because we aren't here to appease political parties. We're here to provide practical solutions, and solutions that are gonna help you, American people, not these conglomerates, right? We're here for you. So if you support that, come join us. We are that place. We are the future of America.
Wow. I think, Matthew, I think we better stop right there. I don't think it gets any better than that. Thank you, Tanya. I would like to point out, if you want to get in touch with us, please send us an email to info@ournationalconversation.org.
All right, so that was all we have time for today, and thank you first off and foremost to our listeners for listening to our introductory episode here. Again, thank you as well to our CEO and founder Jeff Hall for creating this opportunity for all of us. Hopefully, we can keep the ball rolling, for many years to come. Thank you as well, Sam Taylor, who is our policy shop chief, and Tanya Ruiz Ortiz, who is our infrastructure team lead as well, and myself, Matthew Reyna. Thank you all for being here, and please stay tuned. See you soon. Bye-bye.
This podcast was brought to you by Our National Conversation, a place where students generate policy solutions to the biggest problems facing America. Join us in free and political dialogue from hyperpartisanship. To learn more about what you heard today, check us out at ournationalconversation.org. You can follow us on social media at Our National Conversation to show your support and keep up with our latest efforts.